Oklahoma State Cowboy football's complete rebuild of both staffs have equaled an SEC and NFL style of defense, while Mike Gundy decided to stay a little bit closer to home for the offensive side of the ball.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at Aldeo State. Today, we're partially brought to you by the College Football Playoff. Do not miss a moment of the action. The College Football Playoff, presented by Allstate, begins with 4 first-round games, December 20th and the 21st. Catch them all on ESPN, ABC, TNT, and Max. This College Football Playoff should be a good time. Make sure that you get in on the action. Meanwhile, we shift to the Oklahoma State Cowboys, who were supposed to be in this playoff and were supposed to be playing for a Big 12 title. It didn't go as swimmingly as we had all anticipated, but nonetheless, now we get to open a completely new chapter of Oklahoma State ball. The status quo of having the same, coaches over and over and over again, it worked for a long time, but this is a new landscape of the collegiate market. So you got to kind of get with the times. And Mike Gundy rebuilt the offensive and defensive side of the balls completely, but seemingly did it from a little bit of a different angle. Defense, he obviously took the NFL SEC route that almost kind of gives the indication that he's going to be significantly more hands-off than this previous year on the defensive side of the ball. AKA, it appears as though Todd Grantham is going to bring in his own dudes, recruit his own guys, bring in his own transfers to essentially do his thing. Now, the offensive side of the ball has been starting to shake down a little bit, and it has been named the Doug Meacham, former Cowboy offensive lineman and Cowboy coach that was here in some of the heyday offensive moments for Cowboy football, has returned. After multiple stints with TCU, this definitely makes some sense. Now, defensively, I like the idea of having a bunch of non-alums that have, the NFL ties that have all kind of coached together in the SEC. I think that makes a whole lot of sense. But the offensive side of the ball, a lot of us wanted a big, splash, sexy hire, like a Zach Robinson, like a Marcus Arroyo. But at the end of the day, it didn't quite happen. And even though it did appear as though Brendan Marion seemed to be the guy, I would imagine that something to do with the NIL issues of players not getting paid midseason, things of that nature, may have had a hand in the reason that we backed off a little bit. But we land on Doug Meacham. Now, Mike Gundy is going to have a lot of familiarity with this pick because not only is, he familiar with him as a coach, but he was on the offensive line that blocked for Mike Gundy and Barry Sanders and Thurman Thomas. So the connections here are more traditional for Mike Gundy. But at the same time, I don't think that we should be, downtrodden on it. Could this have been bigger? Possibly, yes. But I kind of like the connections offensively, since defensively we completely went against the grain and did something that Gundy doesn't typically do. So defense, completely rebuilt. Offensive, now we have Doug Meacham, who, of course, worked as a tight end wide receivers coach a long time ago, and then he went from there being an offensive coordinator and quarterback coach at Houston, co-OC wide receiver coach at TCU, OC wide receiver coach and co-OC and quarterback coach at Kansas for 2 years. Then he goes back to TCU as an inside wide receiver coach and a tight ends coach, offense coordinator briefly in the XFL. Then he goes back to offense coordinator, inside wide receiver, and tight ends coach at TCU before being bumped back down again this season to inside wide receivers coach. So the regression over the last couple seasons seems to be what people are a little up in arms about. But I'm actually happy with this pick. I think it does make sense. And again, Doug Meacham is a Cowboy. It does matter a little bit more to him, even more so than just your traditional coach that's returning. Having the player involvement, of course, is going to matter to him. If we're looking at laziness potentially from some of these last coaching staff, I don't think we're going to have that issue with not only Doug Meacham, but a large portion of these guys. And Doug, as an inside wide receiver guy, did bring in Jack Beck and John Paul Richardson. So we do know that he brings some of those angles to Cowboy country, not to mention he had a hand in some of the biggest seasons in Oklahoma State offensive history. So I like that connection. Then the connections get even better, right? So if I think that Doug Meacham is a pretty good hire, I absolutely love the hires of Cooper Bassett and Andrew Mitchell to be coordinating the offensive line together. Of course, Cooper Bassett being a total Oklahoma dude that came in as a tight end to Oklahoma State, moved to defensive end, played his last 3 years at DN, and had a decent amount of success. Then he went on to be a GA at Georgia, GA at Maryland, and then he was an O-line coach, run game coordinator, West Texas A&M. Then he gets upgraded again, O-line coach, run game coordinator, to now doing the same things at Southeast Missouri, Sam Houston State. And then Utah State is really where he kind of got to revolutionize himself, being an O-line coach for most of that time. And then what he did at Utah State is nothing short of amazing. He did that job for a year, got bumped up, and was the O-line coach and the run game coordinator this previous season. Yes, Utah State went 4-8, but still somehow was top 3 in scoring and total offense in the conference, and the offensive line only gave up 20 sacks all season. And right next to him is going to be Andrew Mitchell now. Andrew Mitchell, obviously played at Oklahoma State after being at Snow College, and he was, again, part of the meaningful years of Oklahoma State making that transition from 2008 to 2010. Obviously, 2010 was massively successful. That set us up for 2011. He then went on to play for a few NFL teams before jumping back into the coaching realm. He went to North Carolina and Houston as a GA, O-line, tight ends coach, O-line coach at Indiana State, co-O-line coach at TCU, right? There's another one of those connections. So we have a lot of these connections defensively. We're seeing the connection of the dots offensively as well. And, of course, it makes a whole lot of sense for us. And then he goes back to Snow College, right where it all began for him. He was an offensive coordinator and the offensive line and tight ends coach. And they led JUCO, all of JUCO in the country, both of his seasons there offensively, averaging over 50 points a game, which then allowed him to be upgraded to head coach. And we know Snow College traditionally has developed a lot of phenomenal football players. A lot of them have even come to Oklahoma State. He gets upgraded to head coach, right? And also in that same time of being a head coach, he was also the associate AD for advancement. And he spearheaded a $7 million football upgrade. So that's going to help from a marketing standpoint for us as well, not just in the trenches, not just in recruiting, but Andrew Mitchell has an eye for some of the marketing side of the thing as well. And then he shifts with O-lineman again, New Mexico State, a couple years there. They became a premier rushing team, climbing into the number 14th ranked rushing attack in the country this last year, averaging almost 199 a game. It's like 198.6. They had several games over 200 yards, and then they also had a game where they put up a ridiculous 357 yards as well. This is a very good idea for Todd Monken to have some of that familiarity again with Mike Gundy to kind of connect some of the old dots and bring back some of these guys like Cooper Bassett and Andrew Mitchell. I would say that was one of the biggest reasons I was excited about is Zach Robinson, which because Zach Robinson could bring back the Cooper Bassetts and the Andrew Mitchells and the Adarius Bowmans and the Jeremy Smiths of the world and kind of make that connection even more wholesome. And again, this is the route we're going to go offensively. I like it. We are going to talk more strategically about Kevin Johns and Corey Patterson, but I do like both of those hires, not just because Kevin Johns recently came from OU. He ended the season as a big part in the first 7 weeks of the year. He was responsible for setting up all of their scout team stuff and getting them prepared to take on the first team offense and things of that nature. Then he got upgraded. OU obviously ended the season significantly better. He had a hand in calling the game for the Alabama win that OU got. He's been a big-time offensive coordinator at a few different spots, and he's had some individual quarterback success mixed in there as well. Corey Patterson, the assistant coach coming over for Purdue. So essentially he's taking a decent amount of a downgrade, or at least as a title is concerned. He helped some of the guys like Deion Burks and Chase Brown, Illinois running back. And I don't know that this completely means that John Wozniak's out, only because if you continue to look at his social media stuff, it's still full of Oklahoma State, material and conversations. So could it perhaps be that Coach Wozniak isn't exactly gone, right? Maybe he's going to be upgraded. I don't know. I really don't when it comes to Wozniak. I was told he was safe. Him and Hammer were probably going to be safe. Defensively, again, I get it. But we have so many NFL running backs. We have another running back that's about to get drafted. Maybe he's going to be a run game coordinator. Maybe he's going to take a little bit of a higher role, or maybe he is out. I'm not sure. But I do like the hire of Patterson. We're just going to pinpoint the specific individual groups alongside those coaches a little bit later on. Just like you need to isolate yourself and get ready for this college football playoff madness, even if we're not in it. Ladies and gentlemen, just because the Cowboys aren't where they're supposed to be right now, it doesn't mean we shouldn't be excited. Of course, you already know I'm going to be rocking all day, every day with Arizona State. Got to represent the Big 12, and I do want them to get a piece of Texas. So am I going to cheer for Texas over Clemson? Maybe not, but I would love to see Arizona State get some of that Texas redemption because it is that time of year. College football playoff action is back, and with the newly expanded 12-team format, it is guaranteed to be bigger, badder, and better than ever, bringing you all of the hard-hitting and high-flying action that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the college football playoff begins December 21st, starting with the football playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern. Leading into it, we got to check out the SMU Mustangs go against the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon, then followed by the Clemson Tigers looking to take down the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Do not miss a moment of the action. Watch the college football playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. This is going to be a barn burner with the 12 teams, and you're not going to want to miss it. Get in on the action. Go check out the college football playoff when it gets going as soon as you can. All right, from the college football playoff to the transfers. The top transfers that I see that are both, going out of Oklahoma State and coming into Oklahoma State. And I will say, just as kind of like a extra additional, if I were to be looking at the excitement level right now, there's an offensive lineman that I'm really pumped up about, but Justice Boone, a defensive lineman from Florida that has those ties with Grantham that go back to his days at Florida, that would be a massive get, especially with the news now that Colin Clay is retiring from football after multiple ACL surgeries. So we wish him the best. It's going to be great to see Justin Kirkland potentially taking an advancement up this season. But when we're talking about the guys that have gone out, the guys that are coming in, let's hit with the guys that are leaving. To me, the number one departure is going to be Jason Queso Brooks, primarily because he outscored multiple guards this season, including the starters, dating back even to last season in both games and practices, and he wasn't rewarded with it. And then we tried to kind of, dangle a red shirt and maneuver the red shirt around the season, and it just didn't quite go right. And it obviously didn't give the warm and fuzzies to Jason Queso Brooks. Jason Queso Brooks should have started all freaking season at either guard spot. Pick one. I don't care. Maybe he would have been better off to replace maybe a Cole Birmingham. But nonetheless, that is the biggest loss because he was going to be able to slide in instantaneously and be an upgrade from the starters we had the previous season. But it is what it is. He takes his talents on to Houston. Wish him nothing but the best. Pretty excited to see what he could potentially do. Another good friend of mine is Lyric Rawls, taking his talents up to KU. It would have been great to see what he could do, at Oklahoma State. He's been a Cowboy through and through, but he didn't want to put on weight, and he didn't want to be forced to play linebacker. I don't completely, understand our philosophy there, right? But we're about to talk about somebody that I feel like maybe is the embodiment of what they were looking for. But after going through rehab and getting faster and trimming down and working on body fat percentage, to do the exact opposite and to start bulking and gaining weight and preparing for the linebacker move, which was somewhat similar to what KD was supposed to do or did do physically, he wanted to continue to play safety, and I don't blame him. Rock Chalk Jayhawk. I will be going up there when we take on KU in Lawrence. So that'll be a pretty fun one. It'll be nice to get to reconnect again with Lyric. go get it done at number 6. Then I got to say it's De'Zhaun Stribling. Now, why is De'Zhaun Stribling not higher? Only because I'm a firm believer in guys like Io Shotomat King and Talon Shetron and even Royal Capel that can do so many things that add layers to this wide receiver room that losing De'Zhaun Stribling is going to hurt, right? He's the best receiver that we had. But I think the receivers that we have behind him and the ones that are kind of coming up are going to be able to supplant a lot of the concerns that we have from losing De'Zhaun Stribling. It's going to suck. Congrats on him getting his money at Ole Miss. And I know a lot of us will tune into some of the Ole Miss games just to see what De'Zhaun Stribling is going to be able to continuously do. Number 4 on this list is Hudson Card. And I still cannot believe I'm catching so much heat on social media. But here's the deal. There's a big difference between a kicker and a punter, for starters. And secondarily, I'm going to beat a dead horse here. Find me another punter in the country that is 6'2", 220 pounds, and runs a 4.59 40. Find me another punter that does all that, and I'll concede that punting is easy, and Cody just needs to back off of this punter being a big deal thing because anybody can punt, and any punter is the same as the last punter and the next punter and this, and that, and the other. I cannot wait to see how Auburn utilizes Hudson Card. And I also know that if the plan was come to Auburn so you can just stand back there and boot it again, he probably wouldn't be going to Auburn. They plan to utilize his athleticism. It's not just his size and his speed, but he can roll right and kick, right? He can roll right and throw. He can roll left and kick and roll left and throw. And he's been working with Zane for a little over a year on throwing a tighter spiral and learning how to lead better. So he legitimately is ambidextrous with both arms and both legs, and he's the size and speed of a linebacker. And we didn't utilize him. So hopefully Auburn does. He'll be a bigger loss than people realize because of the amount of heat I've taken by claiming that losing a punter is a big deal. I think it's going to be a massive deal. And I cannot wait to see if Auburn's going to use him properly. Get him moving. Get him rolling. Give him some options. If you have somebody that big rolling out on 4th and 1 to punt, if there's any discrepancies defensively and he can eat up that yard easily, let him do it. And then to round out the top 5 leaving, it's going to be Isaiah Glass. You know, he found a really good spot for himself at Vanderbilt. And from a financial perspective, he was going to be able to get more. And he is in a position where he really wants to take care of his family. And I completely get it. So I'm excited for Isaiah Glass. And hopefully he does great things at Vanderbilt. All right, top 5 coming in. Number 1, this is kind of easy. A new JUCO national champion as of last night, linebacker Chendavian Bradley, the number 1 ranked linebacker in all of JUCO. He's an Oklahoma State Cowboy. He should be able to kind of slide right into that Colin Oliver role fairly seamlessly. The things that prevented him from being an All-American level guy at Tennessee were his size. We're going to utilize his speed, even though since leaving Tennessee, he was able to put on another 20, 25 pounds. If he puts on a little bit more weight and maintains that speed, he is going to fill that Colin Oliver role fairly quickly. Number 2, guys, the running back position is sometimes a mirror image to some degree of what you have at linebacker. And the Akron linebacker McCoy, he's a real McCoy. Like, the numbers speak for themselves. The fact that he is already projected to be a late round 5th to 7th round draft pick this season kind of, makes it a very ballsy move. It's a ballsy move for him to come back because it's going to take a pretty miraculous season at Oklahoma State to improve his draft grade tremendously. So if he's already getting a 5th to 7th round grade, he anticipates doing something at Oklahoma State to launch him even higher than a 5th round grade. And because he has that confidence and he has that ability, I'm excited to see what the Akron Zip can bring to Stillwater, America. So he's my number 2 biggest incoming get. Number 3, defensive end, Malik Charles. All I have to say about Malik Charles is just go pop on the film. Now, we are going to do film breakdowns of these individuals as well, but I think that he is another person If you're talking about, well, what kind of roles are we going to have? If we're going to have a 4-down set, what kind of role is the Colin Oliver, individual going to be? We are going to have to adapt and adjust to more of this system that Todd Grantham brings over, which is kind of 3-4 oriented. But, we're going to mix in some 4-down fronts. And I think Malik Charles could be something just like Obi Ezigbo on the other side of the ball to give quarterbacks and running backs something to pay attention to. Our defensive line's got to be able to eat a little bit, of course, but I think these individuals are going to make a big difference. And, losing Lyric Rawls is a big deal, but bringing in Brandon Rawls is a very, very big deal as well. 153 tackles over the last couple seasons, 27 and a half tackles for loss. He's up there when it comes to sacks as well. But the biggest thing when you go pop on the film, we suck this season at contain. Brandon Rawls is phenomenal at contain. He's out there covering slot receivers all the time. Again, you're going to have to jump up from Division II to Power 4 football. There is going to be a difference. And at the Division II level, he could run with slot receivers, running back, tight ends all day, every day, like it was nothing. Because he's 6'2", 240 pounds. That's not your average get out of D2. And we've seen guys like Leon Johnson be able to show us that those lower ranks don't always mean something. Talent is talent. And he's got plenty of talent, and he should be able to shore up the contain issues almost immediately. I'm very excited about that get. And then we'll round it out here with an offensive guy from OU, Caleb Hicks. The loss of A.J. Green means that Caleb Hicks is going to fulfill that same role. And now we're going to have two dudes that can bang it with anybody, and Trent Howland and Jaden Allen Hendricks. Two dudes approaching 240, 250 pounds. Then you're also going to have the ability to kind of get out and get loose with guys like Hicks and Rodney Fields. And even to some degree, I don't know that we're completely out on the development of Sessi as well. Now, there could be some talk potentially of him moving on. But nonetheless, the running back room is going to be phenomenal. And whenever you see that we lose A.J. Green and you can factor in Hicks right away, I think Caleb Hicks is going to be, at worst case scenario, a legitimate candidate to be a third down back, a Kendall Hunter style of guy, like the role that Kendall played in the NFL. Speaking of, that's right, it's dollar bill time, and our Cowboys have been representing us very well in the NFL. Now this is going to be your chance to get with the number one sports book in America for the most NFL action right now. New customers with FanDuel can bet $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets if it's a winner. This FanDuel sports app is going to give you everything you need all in one place. So when you get that tingling sensation in the middle of the game again that something crazy is about to happen, you can now check out the latest stats, review the live play-by-play, and so much more from the same page where you place your bets from. Get started with the opportunity to win $150 back in bonus bets if your first $5 hauler is a winner. Make sure that you go to FanDuel.com. Never waste that tingling sensation in the middle of the game ever again. Go to FanDuel.com today. On top of monetary gains, more than or less than, it's not only fun, but this is the most exciting way to play any daily fantasy sports. Prize Picks is all that you're going to need to have the most amount of excitement this season, no matter what's happening with your particular team. This is your chance to get real money on sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to you. Just pick more than or less than for at least two players to win a shot of up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Make your holidays bigger and brighter with Prize Picks, the best place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. Join now because this holiday season, Prize Picks is giving away 2 free picks in December, and they're giving away $30 million+ in rewards during Picksmas. Get with Picksmas today. Download the app and use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today. Use a code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks is going to allow you to run your game. Prize Picks. Download it today. Run your game more than or less than. This is your chance. This is your opportunity. Make the most out of the season with the most amount of fun that you can have with Prize Picks. All right, we're going to hurry this thing along here because we've got a big one in Cowboy wrestling. As the number 7 ranked Virginia Tech Hokies coming to town. We're hunting Hokies today. And this is going to be obviously the biggest test of the year by far. But the toss-ups in this one are going to be crazy. Hopefully the crowd is absolutely crazy as well. I do project that we lose about 3 matches, potentially even 4. I don't think we lose more than 4, especially the backside of the weights from taking Jameson down to Wyatt Hendrickson. I feel pretty good. But, the beginning of this duel is going to be worth every single millisecond of watching it. So make sure you get on ESPN Plus if you're not able to be in Galgaraiba physically. Speaking of Galgaraiba, the Cowgirls were able to represent Galgaraiba the right way and get another W in what now appears to be, a very surprising team, right? Taking down McNeese State 92-41 is very impressive. Taking Jameson was in foul trouble, so she was kind of all over the place. But that's okay because Stacey Jones chipped in 18. Jaden Wooten had a quiet 16. 15 from Macy Heward. Stately Hurd has 15 as well, and Micah Gray has 13. This team is insanely talented. Congratulations to J.C. Hoyt and her baby, and congratulations to Jasmine Player on getting another W as a coach on the sidelines. The Cowboys, they squeaked out a W. It was ugly. The first half of the women's game was ugly, but the second half was crazy. The fourth quarter, they dropped like 36 points. The Cowboys didn't have a single quarter that was quite like what the Cowgirls were able to do, but we got it done. We hit free throws at the end of the game, which was a breath of fresh air. We're just not super talented offensively, right? And defensively, I would say that this was a little bit of a lackluster performance. We let Keaton Bristow from Tarleton State pop off for 17 points. Marty Silvera, he missed a shot at the very end of the game, but he chipped in 16. Their big man, Chris Mpaka, I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, but he gave Usman a game all day. Abu had a difficult time, and he was still able to almost get in the double figures with 8 points. Bryce Thompson, cool as a cucumber, dropping in 10. Jemima Keller drops in 10. But Marcellus Chi Avery, the UCF transfer, gets hot and drops 18. Now the Cowgirls got a big one as they begin conference play coming up here in just a day as they take on Iowa State. Meanwhile, the Cowboys, they've got a lot of things to kind of get ironed out. But we're 7-3. And we've won on the road, which we could not do last year. And for the most part, we've protected Galgaraiba this year, which we couldn't do last year or the year before that. Saturday, we've got the Cowgirls. Sunday, we've got the Cowboys taking on Oral Roberts, who typically gives us fits in a multitude of sports. So it'll be a fun one. I cannot wait for wrestling tonight. Bruce Bradley, get in on the point scoring early, and we're going to have a pretty good opportunity. But this is an exciting time on the hardwood, even if there's a mat on top of it. All righty, y'all. That's all we're going to have for this one right here. As always, I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here in Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere. So happy you choose to be here. Like it if you like the daggone thing. Dislike if you don't. That's okay too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcast, people out there. The bricks, the bread, the butter, the fountain, the fondue, the funny stuff, the funky stuff. Do what you do. Hit the stars, leave a review. That is all. So later, my taters.